So you know Apple, right? They've built this entire global empire on one single promise: protecting our privacy. But what actually happens when that promise gets a serious reality check? Well, that's what we're digging into today. It's a story about a critical flaw, millions of people at risk, and a corporate response that, honestly, speaks volumes.
It's a really unsettling question, isn't it? I mean, we trust companies like Apple to be these digital fortresses for our data. But this whole story starts with a leak that didn't come from some outside hacker. Nope, it came from right inside Apple's own system, using its own completely authorized tools. And at the absolute center of all this is something called the Apple ID number, or DSID for short. The best way to think of it is like a permanent serial number for your entire digital life with Apple. It's totally unique to you, you can never ever change it, and it is supposed to be 100% hidden. It connects everything: your iPhone, your Mac, your app downloads, even when you press play on a song. It's the secret key to your Apple identity.
So you're probably thinking, okay, to get something that's secret, you must need some kind of crazy, sophisticated hack, right? Well, the reality is, not even close. It's actually shockingly simple. No security breaches, no system abuse, just a few normal steps that any one of us could take. And this right here is where the problem becomes crystal clear. You see, when you request a copy of your own purchase history, which is your right under privacy laws like GDPR, you get back this data file. And in that file, there can be a seller column. And boom, right there for some developers is their full legal name, a little line, and then their super secret Apple ID number, just sitting there plain as day. Let's just walk through how simple this is. First, an indie developer signs up with Apple, and for about 1 in every 4 of them, Apple's system just kind of sticks their secret ID onto their name internally. Second, you or I or anyone downloads their app. And third, you go to Apple's privacy portal and ask for your purchase history. That's it. That's the whole hack. The developer's hidden ID is now yours. If that still sounds a bit technical, let me put it this way. Imagine you buy a book from a bookstore, and when you look at the receipt, they've printed the author's social security number right on it. That's the level of data mix-up we're talking about here. It's a fundamental, whoops, that shouldn't be there kind of mistake that turns a totally normal transaction into a massive privacy breach. Okay, so that's the how. But now let's talk about the who and the so what. Because this isn't just some theoretical flaw on a whiteboard. It has real, tangible dangers for literally millions of people. The very people who create all the amazing apps on the App Store. And when I say millions, I'm not exaggerating. We are talking about a staggering number. Apple themselves say they have over 51 million registered developers. And based on the finding that about a quarter of individual accounts have this issue, well, you do the math. The number of affected developers is easily in the tens of millions. And these are mostly individual creators, not faceless corporations. And believe me, the threats here are really, really serious. Once a scammer has a developer's full name and their secret DSID, they can create phishing emails that are almost impossible to spot as fake. They can also use that idea to connect the dots between other data breaches, building this huge, detailed profile on someone. And what's maybe most alarming is that this allows for on-demand attacks. A bad guy can literally pick a target, download their app, and get their secret ID. Just imagine you're a developer, and you get an email that looks something like this. You know that number is supposed to be a secret between you and Apple. So if you see an email that has it, you're going to think it's legit. You're way more likely to click a bad link or give up your password. It's an incredibly effective trick. Now, you would think a vulnerability this severe would trigger an all-hands-on-deck, transparent response from Apple, right? Well, what happened next is, honestly, maybe the most concerning part of this whole story. The researcher who found this flaw reached out to Apple, ready to help. But what they got back was something else entirely. So check out this timeline. You can just feel the frustration building. The bug is reported on July 2nd. Apple confirms they can reproduce it, which is good, but then radio silence. They refuse to give any timeline for a fix. Then, out of nowhere, they push a silent patch that doesn't even work properly, and the whole vulnerability just comes right back a few days later. All of this with zero communication. And this is the actual response the researcher got when they asked when this critical issue affecting millions of people would be fixed. It's the ultimate corporate non-answer. It gives you nothing, no reassurance, and it basically just slams the door on any kind of collaboration. So after getting responses like that, the researcher came to a pretty bleak conclusion. It seemed like Apple wasn't acting in good faith.
The goal wasn't to fix the problem and be transparent about it. The goal was to keep it quiet, probably to avoid any public embarrassment and protect the brand.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter, doesn't it? It's easy to call yourself a champion of privacy in commercials. Anybody can do that. The real test is how you act when things go wrong, when your own systems fail, and when your users are genuinely at risk.
I mean, just look at the contrast here. On one side, you have all the public promises we see on giant billboards, and on the other, you have the documented actions, in this case, evasive communication instead of protecting users, stonewalling instead of collaborating, and total secrecy instead of transparency. The gap is just massive.
The crazy part is this is fixable. The report laid out some pretty clear, common sense steps. First, stop using secret, personal IDs in business data. Seems obvious, right? Second, fix the billing system so these internal notes never, ever leak out again. Third, go back and clean up all the old purchase histories that have this leak. And finally, do a deep dive to make sure personal data and business data are kept in completely separate boxes. These are all doable things. This quote from the researcher just hits the nail on the head. It really gets to that feeling of disappointment, the sense that when push came to shove, protecting the shiny brand image was more important than protecting the actual people who build the apps for that brand.
And so that's the big question we're left with. We put so much trust in these massive tech companies to keep our digital lives safe. But when their systems and their responses fall short like this, it makes you wonder who's really accountable. Where do we turn when the guardians themselves fail to guard our data?